time back in 2 weeks. Last week we were up north and our internet was very shoddy. It was so slow, I decided not to try and do a 30 minutes with Jan. But welcome to everybody that's joined us this morning. Good morning to my Capetonian friends our way. Guys, as you can see, I'm still alone. My co-host, normally this time of the morning, is sitting back in South Africa. So it's good evening to her on that side. Yeah, this morning I thought I'll chat a bit about CVs. This is something that some people tend to send me for one or other reason. They think I'm the genie that plucks jobs out of the air. But people tend to send me CVs. And this morning, once again, I had a CV. And I looked at the CV and I thought, geez, this is something to talk about. Now, when you do your CV, do it so that your current future employer, or your future employer, let me get my words right there, that your future employer feels like he wants to employ you. Weird things that you can leave out is put in your name and surname, leave out where you were born. It's got nothing to do with employers. Point one, this is New Zealand. They won't know where small places like Kakamas or Patsonderwater or one of these places are. So leave that out. Your employer doesn't want to know where you were born. He's got no worries about that. Your favorite rugby team, even if it's the Blue Bulls, leave that out, guys. No, they're not worried about that. You can leave out your telephone number as well. It may sound weird, but put in your email address. That is the way you want to create a communication period between you and the employer or then the recruiter then at that stage. What you can do as well, after you've removed your telephone, you can give them your telephone once they ask for that and want to set up an appointment to either call you or to do a Zoom or a Skype meeting. I don't know if Skype is still the thing. I know about 4 or 5 years ago that was the big thing, but I think Skype has gone down a bit. Another thing on your CV that I see is people put this long story about how hardworking and how sober they are, blah, blah, blah. The employer is not really worried about that. Does he want to know how much you are drinking? No. Does he want to know you're sober? Probably no. I would think you'd probably get further in New Zealand by putting a photo of yourself and a fish on there than putting you sober and hardworking and diligent and all these type of things. Those are normal traits that you must have. I'm not saying don't put anything like that in there, but just make it much shorter. The one I had this morning had a very long story about how good they were, blah, blah, blah. And when it came down to the jobs, point one, I'm not going to call him out, but this person is a diesel mechanic. They did not really say what they can do, on which vehicles, or on which implements. Can he work on tractors? Can he work on cars only? There was a bit of a confusion there for me. And then if you look at your CV and overall, does it read easy? Is it 1 or 2 pages? So if you've got any comments this morning, please pop them in. If you've got any questions this morning, please pop them in, even if it's not CV or job related. So I'm trying to answer as many questions this morning and see where we get from here. So once you have narrowed down what you want to do in New Zealand, and that's quite important because I get people that says, I'll do any job. Any job's not going to bring you to New Zealand. You'll need to have a very specific job that will bring you here, that will, at the end of the day, see that you get residence. Because if you're only coming here to work and want to go back to South Africa, I would rather suggest go and try work Saudi Arabia or these type of places that they'll probably just pay you better than just coming down here and working for a period of time and then going back to New Zealand, because life is expensive down here. And if you come all this way, you have to make up your mind that you are probably going to stay here for way longer than just a 6 or a 1 year contract, 6 months or a 1 year contract. So just keep that in mind. If you are coming to make New Zealand your permanent home for the rest of your life, if this light is a bit bright this morning, if you are coming to do that, then probably the best thing would be to see that you are in a type of employment that will get you back and eventually get you residence. So I'm not an immigration advisor. I'm just a person to try and help people to reach New Zealand, and people like me has helped me to get here. So I feel I am willing to help people to do that. So magically, I don't get a lot of job opportunities, but there is quite a few job opportunities if you just seek on the right places in New Zealand. Trade Me Jobs has got quite a few jobs, and then Seek has got a few jobs. And these days, according to the immigration website, everybody has to be accredited if they employ anybody from outside of New Zealand, or anybody that's not allowed to work in New Zealand. So if an employer is looking for you and they can't find somebody in New Zealand, they will have to get accredited. Now that's a process that they do on their own. So there's a few good morning to Ruan, a few other people just saying good morning down here. Morning to everybody who's joined just now. The big thing with coming to New Zealand is it's not a cheap exercise. Keep that in mind. So to sit back in South Africa and have no money or no plan to get down here, and then just think you're going to throw your CVs out there and somebody in New Zealand is going to take pity on you and bring you over, it's not going to work. Sorry, guys, it's not going to work. And once you've reached New Zealand, it could be that you are in I want to call it a dead-end job. Just remember, that's the job that got you here in New Zealand. Hang in there for the period of time, or as long as you're supposed to be there, before making wild moves and probably ending up at the wrong side of a visa. So get back to the CVs. Structure your CV in a way that it's easily readable. Structure it in a way that shows you are willing to move over without telling them that you are really not in New Zealand. That's a very fine line to do that. So I was supposed to have somebody here this morning that was supposed to talk about the CVs that they get, and this person is a recruiter, but unfortunately she could not make it this morning. Something came up. So that's a question from the one side. Ronel just asking, what would you do if you still have car debt? I would believe that it's in South Africa, but you've got an offer to go over to New Zealand. Ron, if you're going to stay in South Africa to repay your car debt, you probably are going to miss out on the opportunity that is on offer this side for you. I would suggest come over and then just make an arrangement with the banks. Tell the banks you can't go on. That's that. I mean, what can the bank do? And once you are here, you start repaying them and just get that paid off. Also ask them to give you a final settlement figure. Otherwise, they could slap a heck of a lot of extra interest and stuff on like that. So let me just see. Here's another question here. I am reading a lot of posts where people have gone to New Zealand and are battling to secure interviews and being rejected due to not holding a work visa. That is the one problem. There's a lot of employers down here that is not really willing to be accredited, and they think that everybody that comes here will have a work visa and they will just walk in and start working. And that's not the thing in New Zealand. But slowly but surely that, I want to say, mentality or that headspace is moving, and people are now realizing they need to be accredited. In the past, it was easier to do this, but immigration has tightened up the bolts or the nuts, whatever they tightened up, they tightened something up. And at this stage, they are actually rejecting everybody that comes in and tries to get a work visa without having a job. So you must have a job offer. A job offer must be in the field that you are trained in. You can't come in as a, let's say, dental surgeon, but you were trained as a diesel mechanic. Those two things just don't work together. So just using those two positions as an example now. And then at the end of the day, immigration will see that what you've been trained for, is that what you can do, and have you been doing that for a period of time? I'm unsure about how long the period of time is. As I've said, I'm not an immigration advisor, so don't shoot me or hit me over the head with that. But I know there's a lot of ticks to be made before that immigration will allow you to get that specific visa that you are applying for. And if you are coming, please make sure you've got a pathway to residence. Really, that's very, very important. Without going into any immigration advice this morning, it'll be a very sad day if after a year or 2 years you get to the point where they say, oh, we're not going to extend your work visa anymore because you haven't got a pathway to residence. That must be very, very tough. I'm glad I've never had to face any of that challenges ever in my life. I just can't think how people can come at that stage and be in front of that door, because that's a lot of doors that are going to close down in your face at that moment. So somebody just saying it seems to be very tough for non-green list roles. Yeah, the green list is a list that came from Immigration New Zealand, and you got certain perks on this list, like faster pathways to residence and so forth. But if you're not on that green list, I would believe it's going to be a struggle. So it's always the fact that you can go back and retrain. Remember that you can go back and retrain. You can be taught a new job and do that for a period of time, if your end goal is really to immigrate away from South Africa. So if you're just coming here for a work visa, then don't come. Let me see. Ruan Nell also ask, do you know how the business people do the move from being their own boss to working for a boss? Okay, Ruan, this is an interesting one. So Ruan is basically asking, saying he's been his own boss in South Africa and now he's going to come and work for a boss. It happened to me. It happened to thousands of other people on this island. Most of us used to work for ourselves, and coming into New Zealand to come and work for yourself, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Those type of visas is very difficult, and it takes a heap of time. So you have to pack up your being the boss to being the employer, and you have to put on that jacket, and you have to be able or willing to speak to the boss as good as you can, and you have to listen to what they are telling you. Even if you think in your mind you could do things better, don't try that in the beginning. In the long run, you could try and change some of the organizational skills. But another interesting fact, a lot of my clients used to work for themselves, and a lot of them is now working for bosses, and a lot of them is going to work for bosses, they say, for the rest of their life, because it just takes all this hassle that they always had as a boss in South Africa. It takes it away from them. They say to me, they said, 5 o'clock, we pack up our tools, and that's that. They don't have to worry about who's getting paid. They don't have to worry about the HR. They just go home and they enjoy that. So that's the other flip of the coin. Keep that in mind as well. I saw another one on the other side coming in. Renier de Klerk just saying, yeah, this is a very good one, Renier. He says, don't forget to contact companies directly. When we immigrated, my job was not advertised. I contacted companies but could use my experience. That's how I secured a job to immigrate. That's very important, guys. You see a lot of jobs advertised on places like Trade Me and Seek and these type of places. And some of those jobs are just people that's looking for local New Zealanders. They're not accredited or anything else. So what I would suggest to do is, if you are in a specific occupation, go and look at the biggest players in that field. The biggest players will normally be accredited because they are used to bringing people over from South Africa. If you go to a one-man band, it's probably going to cost them too much to be accredited, point one. They probably won't be able to pay you the type of salary that a big corporate will be able to pay you. And remember, big corporates in New Zealand aren't as big as New Zealand. We're talking, as in South Africa. I know people that came to me and said, I have 3,000 people under me in South Africa, and now they want to work with 50 people. It's not going to happen. That is corporate here. That is corporate. They seem to get a lot more done with much less people. So, yeah, just get used to the way that they do business in New Zealand, and that'll probably be your saving grace at the end of the day. Now, back to contacting these companies directly. Set up a LinkedIn profile, and set up a clear LinkedIn profile. It must be clear what you are doing, and it must be clear who you are. And don't put stuff on there like you were the head boy of the high school. It's useless information. Keep useless information away. I know you're very proud of being the head boy, and good on you. And your grandma probably would have loved you for that, but the employer doesn't need to know that. The person reading your LinkedIn profile or your CV doesn't need to know that. It's so important to get the stuff right from the beginning. You only get this one chance, and if you've been thrown out, and most of the time I see people are getting thrown out by artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, and I could be a bit wrong here today, that's why I wanted this other lady to come speak to us this morning. Artificial intelligence looks at certain keywords in your CV. So you got to go and read the ad, and the ad would say, we need diesel mechanics. We need a diesel mechanic that can work on, let's say, Ford vehicles, because they break the whole time. So you'd have to have in your CV the words diesel mechanic. You have to have the word Ford. You have to have a lot of those stuff that they have in the ad, you have to have there. A lot of these ads are structured to throw you out if you are from overseas. That's just the way that these artificial intelligence works. And like Renee said, if you go to the company directly, um, then you speak to somebody, you get your CV on somebody's email on the desk there, and it's not being hampered by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a nice way forward, but it's also a bit of a bad way forward because artificial intelligence is only as good as it has been trained to do. So they would set up artificial intelligence to look at certain stuff in the CV, and if it's not there, the CV gets thrown out. You could be the best worker in the world, but you won't get that job. Leonie Needham, she's got a lot of experience as well on this subject, she says. And good morning, Leonie. Thanks for popping on the channel. A lot of the job listings on Trade Me and Seek are just part of the job check process for candidate applications already filled. Immigration New Zealand needs position to be advertised for a couple of weeks. That is a fact. So, as Renee said, if you contact the company directly and they have a position for you, but they haven't advertised that, it could be that you are delayed for another 6 or 8 weeks because this position first have to be advertised in New Zealand to see if they can't get anybody local. Oh, so my artificial intelligence, Learning Needham said, is called ATS, Applicant Tracking Software. Okay, that's interesting. But there's ways and means around everything in life. That's what I've learned so far, and I didn't come this far not knowing to get around stuff. So there will always be a roadblock in any way you go in the world. Another roadblock I see we're having these days is if I look outside, it's getting lighter later in the morning, and you can feel there's a bit of a chill in the air. I've heard that the guys in the South Island are experiencing a bit of I think it's an Arctic blast or something like that. So it's a bit chillier down there than it's up here. So keep that in mind when you come to New Zealand. The North Island is generally a bit more warmer than the South Island, except this year we had much more rain over our dry period than anywhere else. So, yeah, interesting. The applicant tracking software, what I call artificial intelligence, that's just something to try and sieve through the CVs that they do get in. And I do believe that they do get a lot of CVs. We've got another page called Getting a Job in New Zealand. And that is where we try and advertise some jobs that we find on the internet for people. But if I see the amount of remarks that gets placed on any job, then you'll probably put something like diesel mechanic job on there, and then 10 people will say they are software developers. Another 10 will say, oh, they're chefs, they want to come. I mean, it's got nothing to do with the job. And this is what I think a lot of people are trying to get or to cut the rubbish from what is a good CV at the end of the day. So you've got to write a good CV just to be able to get into New Zealand or to get that opportunity to sit down and speak to a boss. Now, once you have that opportunity, you'll probably be speaking to somebody in HR or then a recruiter if it's a recruiting company. Now, the nice thing about recruiting companies, they normally know, and I'm saying they normally know because I found some of them that I don't know if they're new to the recruiting game, but yeah, they didn't know that the employer has to be accredited. So, but mostly these agencies know that the employer has to be accredited. They know what immigration wants from this role. They know if there's any certificates needed, if there's any degrees needed. A lot of people have got years and years of how can I say? They've got years and years of knowledge, and they can do the job 100%, but they would need a specific certificate for this. And if you don't have that, normally these employers will come, or the recruiters will come back and say, guys, without that, it's not going to run with it. Yeah, that's another thing. Leonie Needham saying CVs with pictures and too much formatting can't be read properly with ATS. Matches keywords and it scores you. So the keywords in an ad must match your CV. So I would probably say redo your CV for every job opportunity. I know that sounds terrible, but one night back in South Africa, I sat down and decided Tonight, I'm going to find a job in New Zealand. I had my CV done to the best of my ability. Um, yeah, Leonie, I was one of those guys with a photo on. Had a nice photo on, and I was proudly South African, blah, blah, blah. And I posted that CV at that night to at least, I think, 300 jobs. I just went probably the whole night. I was just sending the CV out, out, out. I got about 300 no's and haven't until today received one yes or one possibility on that. And if at that stage I decided to give up, I would have still been in South Africa. So I really did my best with that CV, which was totally inadequate. And it was after that that I decided to redo my CV and get a bit of a better picture of myself out there without putting a picture on. So, and then when I started reaching out on Facebook, reaching out to people who was in the same industry as me. Um, I reached out on LinkedIn to people who could help me with securing a job opportunity here. And eventually, via a old friend, I got two whoever employed me at that stage. Actually had two job opportunities when I decided to come to New Zealand to have a look, see, and decide for those period of time. And yeah, it was quite interesting. On the job opportunity that I didn't take was directly with a company that is in the insurance field. And one of the big questions that this guy was asking me is, send me a picture with the biggest fish you've ever caught. Now, this may sound very, very weird, but I've later met him up, and he's a big fisherman and he loves fishing. So, but I've decided not to go with somebody who wants a fish photo of me with a fish. So, yeah, that's in short what CVs are all about. And the biggest thing in all of this is not to give up. I know it's easy to give up. I know it's easy to think, oh, they don't want me in New Zealand. We need workers down here. And if you are on the green list, you've got a very good chance of coming to live here permanently. There's a very good chance of you that you can bring your family as well. That's so important that that you take these chances that are offered to you. If you can't if you can't do that, it's quite important that you get to the point where you have moved yourself, that you are looking at something on the green list. Retrain yourself. Go, even if it means just doing a different division of what you are currently doing. Because sometimes on the one field that you were working in, they don't have similar type of jobs in New Zealand. So you need to do a few changes to do something else. And then something else. I'm sorry, Leonie isn't on here this morning as well with me. There's a lot of skills that you can move from one position to the next position. So if you were doing one position, you've got certain skills. Some of the skills can be moved over. They call it, I think, a skill transfer, if I'm right. Move that over to something totally else. You weren't that a role, but you can do that role because you were doing something similar. So read between the lines as well. Read and see what do they really want to do from you, or want you to do in New Zealand. Perhaps you are totally suitable for that. You've just misread the role. Or if you go on all these platforms where you can seek for job opportunities and just place in your current role general manager, you'll probably get to a heap of other things that you aren't eligible even to come and do here, except for the green list or whatever. Let's take the green list out of this equation this morning. Except for being on the green list or not on the green list, those different roles that you will see down there, if you just put in a generic thing that you are, or position that you have currently, you will find that a lot of different positions pop up, but stuff that you're not suitable for. But go and have a look at what you are doing and try and see if you can't implement this somewhere else in the field. I've got a lot of people asking me about mining. We don't have mines in New Zealand, really. We've got, I think, a coal mine down in the South Island. That's about as far as we go with mining. But if you are a shift boss, you can probably look after people. You can probably manage people. There's a lot of other stuff coming out of being a miner or something on the mines. So if you just search for mining in New Zealand, you probably end up being a dud. I'm just taking mining as an example down here. But if you look at what your specific position entails, and then try and relate that to something else in New Zealand, you probably have a higher chance of finding a job in that specific region or in that specific field. So keep that in mind. Be open to change. Be open to exploring new areas. Yeah, that's in short what I think about CVs. And guys, just never give up. If you can't find somebody on Facebook, go on LinkedIn. Go and make new friends everywhere. Speak to the people. Tell them, yes, I would really want to come to New Zealand. I want to work hard. I want to be there. I want to make a better future for my children. But this is what I'm doing. And somewhere along the line, somebody will pop up and say, yeah, but if you can't do that, you probably will be able to do this as well. Would you be interested in this position? Is open at our company, and we are accredited, and that's that. So, yeah, is there any other questions? Let me see. There's a few remarks that I've missed here. Just Tom Morton saying be flexible. And he says Tracy, probably his wife, is a food scientist. She's working all over the factory because of a lack of staff any particular day. Yeah, be flexible. Once you are in a role, I actually spoke to a lady the other day, and what she was doing actually astounded me. I'm not going to say what exactly she's doing, but she's also working in a factory type of situation. And she was doing a heck of a lot of different stuff in the factory. And speaking to her about her background in South Africa, she's never done this before. So she has adapted. Once she was here, she has adapted and done that. And guys, if you are coming to New Zealand and an employer has given you the chance to come here, please do your best. Remember where you come from, or remember who you represent. Put a good word out there for us, and could put a good word out there for the people that's still coming. If you have any job opportunities in your specific area that you know fellow South African would be or can fill, please, you can send them to me. You can pop them on Facebook. Advertise these job opportunities on any of the platforms that we have here. So someone just saying, is there an opportunity for somebody that's been working in a green listed job for the last 14 years but does not have the qualification? That's from Elsha Balsel. 14 years is a long period of time, just depending on what you have been doing. I can't go into the immigration results of that, but some of the employees will accept 14 years of experience as having very much the same as a qualification. You'll probably find that with 14 years of experience only, you'll stand a better chance than somebody who's just had the qualification and no experience, because experience is quite important as well. Somebody just saying the new medium wage is also a big problem for non-green list roles, like example, office management, maximum offer lower than that. That is a problem. That's a problem. The amount of money they offer you for roles like office management, admin positions, and these type of stuff will probably not get you into New Zealand at current. But retrain. There's heaps of work available and you can retrain into that type of position within a year or 2 years. So just keep that in mind. Somebody also just saying the IT industry. Yeah, the IT. Elsha, I think drop me your details. Send me a private message afterwards. I've got somebody in the IT industry that can probably help you out with something that does. Leonie Needham just saying experience does count. Leonie, I think we should make a date and have a chat on 30 minutes with Jan. You let me know when it's a good time for you. So I see you've got a lot of experience that you can once again share with our viewers. Guys and girls, that is me. This is Thursday morning, same time, same place next week. And next week, hopefully, my co-host is back. I don't know if she will have the travel babalas over yet, but let's see what's happening there. Okay, thanks a lot. I see you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.